Perfect. I hope my screen is audible. My screen is visible to everyone, right? So before I begin, I just wanted to kind of help you with a few ground rules so that this webinar ends up being as productive as possible for you guys. I will take your questions at the end of the webinar. So in the event that you do want to post your questions, please feel free to kind of drop them in the message bar at on the right, and I will pick all of the questions and answer them in the end. Uh, Secondly, the purpose of the webinar will be fairly simple. It will be to help you understand and get the most out of the platform. I know some of you may have tried the platform in the past, and some of you might be completely new to the platform. So I would want you guys to get hands-on the platform by the end of this webinar, and also kind of take you through some of the detailed features. Cool. Okay, so when you log in, I've used a dummy login to log into the app right now. When you log in, this is the first screen that you will come to, right? As you can see, there are three workflows that you can go ahead with. The first one is script to video, which is something that you will use when you're leading with script first. What that means is that if you figured your script already, if you've got about 5 or 6 lines of text, or if you've got a content marketing piece that you want to transform into a video, this is the workflow that you'll possibly choose, right? The second one is called ready-made versatile templates. As the description reads, this is something that you'll use when you want to create promos, when you want to create product videos, when you want to create video ads, etc. The purpose here is that when you use these templates, you will not actually be driving via text. Your videos will not be text heavy. You will be focusing more on the frame or the scene per se, and just probably fill in a bit of text to make it look appealing and to communicate your message, right? The third workflow is something that we recently went live with, which is build your own video from scratch. Now, my recommendation would be that unless you don't probably get a bit hands-on on the other two workflows, you would preferably not want to get started from a blank canvas. But of course, you can still give it a shot. But I'd still recommend that you'll save an ample amount of time and effort if you possibly get started with one of the templates from these two workflows, right? All right, let me just get started with the first workflow, which is converting your script to a video. So as soon as you go inside the workflow, you'll come to this screen wherein you will see quite a few templates, right? Now, when you hover on any one of these templates, it'll actually show you how the templates will look. They're categorized according to different moods. They're also labeled accordingly. So as you can see, this is something that is freestyle. So it's probably better suited for an entertainment kind of video. We've got vanilla, which is a fairly straightforward, simple kind of video. Then we've got business, which might be effective if you're trying to make a business presentation, right? For the sake of this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with business, right? Sorry about that. So as you can see, you can actually see a preview of the video template here. Then you can obviously toggle between the different aspect ratios. So 16:9 obviously is for YouTube, 1:1 is for Facebook, and 9:16 is for Instagram stories or for Snapchat stories. Right? It can also be used for mobile first videos. Now, typically what you would want to do is you would want to spend about 3 to 4 minutes trying to pick the ideal template according to your use case. And what you would also want to look at is what are the resolutions that are available for that template. Because in the event that you want to duplicate the same video across resolutions, I think it'd be much better off if you select a template that has all three resolutions already built in, right? And I will show you how you can duplicate it across resolutions as well. But for the time being, let's start with YouTube and let's see how that goes, right? I'd say start with this template. The entire process of making the video is divided into 3 simple steps. Step 1 is scripting, right? So now you've got three options. You've got the first option is obviously where you can come and copy paste your script. Like for example, I've got a I've got a sample script that I had made for the purpose of this video. So I'll just copy paste that. Right. And that's done, right? Now you have an option here that says auto suggest images and videos. If you keep this checked, you will get a whole host of recommendations in terms of images and videos that you can use. If you don't want the app to do that, you can just probably keep this checked off. I think I've got a message. Just give me a second. Okay, so I had a question from Amar, which says, "Is it able to use right to left language?" Yes, Amar, you can use Arabic as a language as well. We have that capability built in. I'm not quite sure about the fonts, to be very honest with you, but we do have a bunch of fonts that even support Arabic. If you have a specific font that you would like to use or something like that, please use the inbuilt chat support window to let us know, and we will see if we already have it or we can incorporate it. Cool. Okay, perfect. So let's go back to our video. Just give me a second. Sorry. Okay, so now we've got our sample script here already. You've got two other options that you can use. You can obviously pick up using your URL. So you can actually just paste the link of your article and it can scrape the text and summarize it and help you in terms of scripting. The last option obviously is if you want to start off with your files. So for example, what happens in the event you want to actually come drag and drop your media first and then you want to script accordingly. So that is also something that is available. Now I'm going to go with the first option because I already have some text that I've included here. Let me see, just give me a second. Okay, I'm just going to refresh this for the sake of our convenience because I think I did something that kind of messed up the app. Okay, I'm just going to copy paste this again. And I'm going to say, let's say, I don't want this checked, right? And I'm also going to kind of remove some of the lines here because I want to kind of keep it short, right? I'll click on next. Now, what happens is this is where it takes you to the second step, which is the storyboarding step. So just as the name suggests, just as a typical storyboard does, uh, what this scene allows you to do is visualize your scenes or visualize your lines of text. So for example, it has already broken down your scenes into different frames. So for example, this is a headline frame, this is a story frame, and so on and so forth, right? Now, what you can do is you can obviously change the scene type here. So for example, if you want to change this to a quote, you can do that. I think we have a quote in our script somewhere. Okay, so if I want to visualize this as a quote, I can just select the frame type as a quote right here. And as you can see, it'll actually do that for us, right? Similarly, there are a whole bunch of options. So there's a question again, and then there's a social frame as well, which I'll come to in a minute. But the basic idea is that it'll allow you to just drag and drop media here and visualize your scenes. The layout is fairly simple. On the left is your asset library. So for example, this is your script. You've got your media panel, which is our internal inbuilt library of royalty-free images and videos. You've got uploads, which is where you will drag and drop your uploads. And you've got music, which is something that you'll probably select towards the end. You have a whole bunch of categories that you can pick from, and you can select the appropriate music track, right? I'm just going to go back to media here. Let's search for, given the fact that this is video marketing, I'm going to search for video. Let's see, what do I get? Okay, so let me check if this is a video that I want to use. I think it looks appropriate. Perfect. So I'm just going to use this for my headline scene. Now, as soon as you drag and drop your video, what happens is it opens up a trim module, right? Guys, you will have to be a little patient with me here because I'm not on the best internet connection. I was actually on the move. So this will take a couple of seconds or so, but when you do this on a stable internet connection on your own systems, this should be extremely fluid and easy to do, right? Uh, okay, as I was telling you, when you drag and drop a video file, what you'll see is that it opens up a trim panel where you can select the part of the video that you want to use in your scene, right? So if I do this, if I say that this is done, the video gets embedded. And now if I click on the preview button, it'll actually show me the preview for this particular scene. Right, there we go. It's for 11 seconds. My branding has already come in because I've set that up. I will show you where you can do that once we are done with this video, but you can be rest assured that you can actually set this up right in the beginning, right? Uh, Now, if once I've made this scene, let's say if I actually like the way that this is built, and if I want to duplicate it, I can duplicate it from here so that another scene of the same kind gets added. There we go. I obviously I can use the delete button to get rid of this as well. You can always add another scene as well. So we have built the platform in a way that every step makes the previous step redundant. So you never have to go back. So for example, if you wanted to add more lines of text, suddenly you realize that, okay, you know what? There's another quote that I want to get embedded in my video. You can always click on add scene and it'll open up a blank scene that you can then customize. Okay, cool. Let's go down the road, right? So let's move to our next scene. Digital is taken for granted. So what I'm going to do is, let me try and see if I can find an image this time for the keyword digital. Okay, let's say I like this image. I'm just going to drag and drop that. And there we go. We've got our scene configured. Right? That's how the scene will look right now. Now, obviously, you'd want to make a few changes. We'll just look at how you can do that in a minute. But for the time being, I'm just going to just drag and drop all of the media so that I get all of my media in place at once, right? A couple of other things that you might possibly want to do is you might want to highlight something. So for example, in this case, if I want to highlight digital, I'll just select digital and I'll click on highlight. There you go, right? Uh, you can change the color, etc. in the edit panel, but for the time being, I'm just letting it be the way it is. Another thing that you can do is, if you notice, you will get this pop-up. We built this intelligence in, which will tell you if your sentences are slightly longer than what should be the ideal length. So in that case, what you would want to do is split your sentences into two parts, so that the first part comes on the screen, moves away, and then the second line of text comes in. So how you'll do that is, from whichever point you want to split your sentences, just hit enter and it will split your sentences into two lines, as you can see. Now, if I preview this, let's see what happens. The first line comes in, and then the second line comes in, right? So this can be very handy for you if you want to incorporate slightly longer sentences in one particular scene. I think this is the best way to go about it, right? Let's move on to our next scene. Digital media. Okay, let's create a montage here, right? Let's pick up multiple images at once. For example, this is the first image. This is the second image. Please make a note, you can add as many images as you would like. When you add them sequentially like this, what will happen is it'll create a montage. So one image will play and then the next image will play. The first image and the second image, right? You can also see the scene duration. So the scene duration gets auto adjusted basis the amount of text that you have. So for example, here I had a slightly longer sentence. I obviously had two subtexts. So the scene duration automatically got set at 11 seconds. Here on the other hand, because I have just one line of text, it got set at 6 seconds. Now this can again be changed when we go inside the edit panel, but we'll just get to that in a minute. Okay, video content again, I'd say let me use this as an image. Right? Cool. Just give me a second. I think I've got any transactions to be used. Amar, I'm sorry, but I don't quite follow. Can we save this question towards the end of the demo? I think it'll be a lot more convenient for me to take it at that point in time. And you can probably turn on your audio as well, and I can probably hear your question and get clarity on it. Cool. Okay. Thanks. All right. So let's get on to the next scene. We've got online videos will be 82% of all internet traffic. So I'm just going to take this as an image and I'm going to drag and drop this here. Sorry, my bad. Bingo, right? And my last scene is actually an outro that has already been set for this brand, right? So you can also do this for your own brand. This is basically an end clip that has been sent by the brand, right? Okay, so let's now go into our edit panel and see what all changes can we make to this scene. So I don't think I need any changes for my first scene, so I'm just going to keep them as is. However, for my second scene, I'd just like to go to the edit panel. Give me a second. Any image usually turns out to be blur. Any idea why? Shruti, that's not necessarily true. So we don't actually have Google images that are built in. So all of these images that are in the media tab are from completely independent sources. So we have a tie-up with all of those sources. So we don't use Google images. None of these images are from Google. If you are facing that issue when you upload images from Google, so if you actually download images from Google and then upload them here, that's a completely different ball game. There might be a possibility that the images that you're downloading from Google are of a smaller resolution. So that is actually one of the reasons why we don't pick up images from Google, because the copyright-free images actually are of a very low resolution, which are not conducive to making videos. But how about this? Why don't you actually take this up with us? Post this webinar. Just put in a chat request and just take it up with my team. We have customer support that is available 24/7. Because if this is a very particular use case, then we'll have to look into it. We'll have to deep dive into the kind of images that you're using, and we will be able to tell you if that is a glitch at our end, which is unlikely, but there might just be a glitch at our end, or it's a function of the kind of images that you're downloading. Sounds cool? Okay, cool. So coming back to editing our scene, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on edit so that we actually go to our edit panel. Now, let me just simplify this layout for you, right? In the center is your main workspace. So, you can preview your scene here. You can make your changes here. All of that happens here. On the left is, again, your asset library. So everything that you want to add to your scenes, you can add it from your left panel. So for example, media, again, is your media panel. So I can always drag and drop media here as well. I can change my media here. There are elements which are, there are enhancers, which are basically other kinds of elements. I'm just going to come back to this in a second. Text is a whole bunch of text options, and uploads is where you will upload your content, right? On the right are all of your editing options. So anything that you want to change or edit, the option will always be on the right. It can't be on the left or anywhere else on the screen, right? So for example, in this case, what if I want to change, when I click on the video, the video editing options will open up on the right. So this editing panel is contextual in the sense that it will always show up editing options for the element that you've selected. So for example, this is my text box, right? So the moment I select my text box, all the text editing options open up on the right. So as you can see there, I can change my text here. I have text styles, which is a whole bunch of options. So you can change your font color, you can change your font size, etc. All the regular text editing options. You can also change the colors of your text. You can increase or decrease your band opacity if you want to do that. You can also control the animation. So for example, if you wanted to come character by character, you can also do that. Or you wanted to come whole, you can also do that, right? A whole bunch of options. I will not necessarily deep dive into each and every single feature. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and I'd urge you to just probably give it a shot. Just toggle with each option. There's nothing for you to lose, because any change that you make can easily be previewed here, and it can also be undone. So you can do a Command Z or a Control Z. That'll undo any particular action that you've done on the screen. You can just use your keyboard shortcuts and undo that. You also have the undo button right here on the top, so you don't have to worry about it. Cool. Okay, let me just preview this scene here so that I know what are the changes that I wanted to make to this scene. Okay. All right. So now here's the thing, right? I'm not very fond of the way that it is showing me this text. So there's another option called more scenes, which is something that you will get every time you try to edit a particular scene, right? When you click on more scene options, what you'll get is multiple layouts for the same scene. So for example, here, because the subject of my scene is on the left, I want to have my text on the right so that it complements it, right? So I'll just select that, and so I'll just move my seeker to the right, and so you can actually move this around. You can reposition this as well. I'm just going to make this slightly shorter so that it does not intervene with the iPad at any given point in time, right? Now, if you'll notice, when you select the text box, there's a small circle that comes in on the top. Now, this is something that we shipped very recently, about 5 days ago or so. What you can do with this is you can actually rotate your text. So you now have the ability to rotate your text. I'm just going to leave it as is for the time being, but you can always play around with that. All right, let's actually look at what is the seeker at the bottom, right? Because as you could see, if you come here, you'll not be able to see your text, right? Now, the reason why you can't do that is this is the length or the duration of your scene. It goes from 0 seconds to 10.5 seconds. Now, when you move this seeker across this timeline, you'll see that different elements come in at different points in time, right? So the text box, for example, came in slightly later, and so on and so forth. Now, if I had another element that was on top of this, you could also see that, when that element kicks in. So that is the general idea. So if you have text in your scene, but you can't see it at any given point in time, don't worry about it. Just move your seeker towards the end of the scene, and you will be able to see the text. Now, what else can you do on this timeline? When you click on any element, let's say, for example, the text box, as you can see, the text box goes from 0.5 seconds to 10.5 seconds. Now, what I can do is I can drag and drop this to actually start slightly later, which is around the 3.8 second mark. Basically, what this timeline will allow you to do is it will allow you to control the in and out times for a particular element. So for example, if this text box is the one that we are talking about, as you can see, it comes in at 3.8 seconds and it leaves at 10.5 seconds. But the moment I click on my video, as you can see, my image comes in at 0 seconds and it goes on at 10.5 seconds. So it actually controlled this as well. What if I wanted to go off at 4.3 seconds, right? Now, if you control your seeker, you'll be able to see that my media goes off. So my media is present before this point, and my media goes off after this point, and my text box, obviously, I think this is the second line of text because there are 2 lines of text. Then my second line of text comes in at 3.5 seconds and it stays till about 10.5 seconds, right? Now, if we preview this, let's see what happens. Right? My first line of text comes in and my second line of text comes in. As simple as it gets, right? Uh, what else? So that pretty much explains all the options that are available here, except for one option, which is layers. Now, what do I exactly mean by layers? Let me just go back to my image and let me extend it for the whole length of the video, right? Let me also go back to my text box and let me ensure that it stays throughout the video. Now, here's what you can do, right? When you click on layers, you'll see that there are three layers currently. There's my background layer, there's media one, which is my image, and then there's obviously the text layer, and then there's the logo layer. Now, what happens in the event that I want to push my text layer behind my image? So I can literally just drag and drop that, and my text will go behind the image, right? So the order is fairly simple. Whatever is at the topmost is at the foremost. So for example, my logo is the topmost layer here in terms of the sequence. So it is actually at it's the foremost item in my scene. It's the foremost element. And as we go down the order, we will have these elements one behind the other in terms of the sequence of how they're placed, right? Now, if I have to, let's say, have my logo behind my media, I can do that as well, and so on and so forth, right? So I can have my text layer on top of everything else, so that when I move this on top of my logo, as you can see, it'll actually cover up my logo. But if I don't want that to happen, I can actually place my logo to be at the topmost layer, so that when I move this behind it, as you can see, the logo doesn't go anywhere. That's the beauty of it all. Now, when this comes in all the more handy when you have multiple elements, right? For example, what if you have another icon on top of this, or what if you have a shape on top of your scene? So now, where are you going to find those elements? You'll actually find them under enhancers, right? So anything that is not media, you'll find it under enhancers. So you will have a whole bunch of things, like for example, you've got stickers. So let's say if I search for a computer, you've got these icons that you can use. So for example, if I want to use this in my scene, I can simply go and place it here on the bottom left and make this bigger, right? You can control a whole bunch of other things as well. You can obviously control the opacity as well. You can do all those things. In fact, here's the best part. I can just literally get rid of my media and I can just build my scene basis my icon. This comes in extremely handy when you're trying to build explainers of sorts, because the icons are a great way for you to explain things or ideas to your customers. Cool. Okay, what else? So we've got stickers and icons, we've got collage layouts. So this is basically what you'll select if you want a 2-image collage or a 3-image collage, right? Fairly simple. We've got shapes. So shapes is again something that comes in extremely handy when you want to, let's say for example, showcase a sale, for example, or when you want to put a solid block behind your text. So let me give you an example. So I can literally put this as a sticker or as a shape. You can obviously change your color. So I'm just going to change this to white for the time being. And I'll just place this at the bottom left, right? And now you can put in your text on top of this when you say, okay, flat 50% off summer sale, whatever be the case, right? So you've got a whole bunch of shapes that you can use. You can use arrows, you can use a question mark. For example, I could get rid of this and I can add a quotes mark, which will again kind of amplify my scene. So you can do all kinds of things, right? And there are obviously within shapes, you've got uh, transparent shapes, you've got solid lines, you've got outlines, you've got the whole shebang. What else? Last but not the least, let's look at what do we have in terms of overlays. Now we've got a few VFX overlay effects that kind of will add more drama to your scenes, will add more character. So for example, something that I use very frequently is light leaks, right? Or in this case, because this is a technology-based story, let's look at a slightly different effect. Let's see what do we have in retro. Okay, let's actually look at light leaks. Let's look at a better effect. So for example, if I wanted to show something like this, you can control the opacity obviously, but let's see what happens to your scene now. As you can see, there's a layer on top of your scene which kind of makes it feel a bit futuristic, if I may say so. Now, there are a whole bunch of other scenes. So let's say, for example, if this was good news, you could have always gone back to your overlay effects and you could have, let's say, said entertainment. Let's see, what do we have in terms of entertainment? So if this is another layout that you can use on top of your scene, great. This actually gets the job done because it kind of does give it a techno vibe. There we go. Right? As simple as it gets. Now, if you'll notice, sometimes this layer will kind of interfere with your text. That is where layers can come in extremely handy. So what you can literally do is go to layers and say that your text will be on top of your overlay layer. So what that'll ensure is that you can even do the same with your logo, for example, if you always want to ensure that it is extremely visible, and everything else can stay behind the overlay layer, right? I hope this kind of demonstrates how you can use layers to your advantage. I'm just going to save this as a scene. Okay, how about we just quickly run through text types as well. So when you go to text, what you see at the top are the 4 text box options that are from this particular template. So for example, when you click on, let's say, headline, this headline is the exact same text box that you will get with the business template. However, you've got a whole bunch of other options as well. So for example, these are standard headlines. They don't have a background. They're just simple headlines that you can use. And then there are slightly more animated headlines as well. So for example, you can use this as a headline. You can use any one of these, right? And here's the best part. When I select this as a headline, and when I add it to my scene, what you'll notice is that it actually comes in the exact same color scheme that you selected for your brand. So it's not that, or you can also obviously change it. So you don't have to worry about the fact that this will come in black and blue. You can always go and change the asset colors and kind of tweak your text box to be whatever you want it to be. So for example, if I want the background to be white, you can do that. Then I'll have to go and change my text color to be black. So on and so forth, right? You get the general sense of how you can use text boxes to your advantage. Cool. So I think that kind of covers our edit panel. If you do have any questions beyond that, you can always reach out to us. I'm also quickly going to show you how you can add your own voiceovers to your scene. So when you again go inside the edit panel, you'll see that you have got 2 options here at the bottom. You obviously have the option to change your scene duration as well. So whenever you want to change your scene duration, you can just come in here and change it. You can make it shorter, you can make it longer. For example, here I'm just going to do it for 5 seconds. You can always move your text to the top. I'll just do that for this particular scene. And now let's try out adding a VO, right? So when you want to do that, you've got a few obvious options. So you can upload a VO from your computer. That's by default. That's an option that you get. You can, once you've uploaded something, you can always recall it across projects because now we have global uploads. So if you upload an image or if you upload a voiceover file, it will be available to you across projects. So you can always refer back to an upload that you did probably as a previous project and kind of use that VO in this particular scene, right? You can also record your VO right here on the scene. For example, it's as simple as this. The average adult spends 5.9 hours per day with digital media, up from 3 hours a day in 2009. You can plug in a lapel, you can plug in a mic, or you can also use your earphones if you're going to be in a slightly silent room, and you can record your VO right here. The average adult spends 5.9 hours per day with digital media, up from 3 hours a day in 2009. All right. I think this recording is good to go for me, so I'm just going to save this. And now you can trim it. So for example, when I play this, that's where I want to start my VO from. So I'm just going to give it a second or two for breathing space, so that during transition my VO, like the initial part of my VO, does not get lost. And so the start time is around 0 seconds, the end time is around 7 seconds, the duration is 6 seconds. I'm just going to say apply. You can also control or balance the VO as opposed to the background music. You can level it. So for example, if I want my background music to be at 12%, I want it to be lower at 5%, you can always do that. And now let's look at our preview and see what happens. The average adult spends 5.9 hours per day with digital media, up. So as you can see, what happened here is my scene duration is at 5 seconds, whereas my VO duration is about 6 seconds. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to change this to about 7 seconds and hit preview again. The average adult spends 5.9 hours per day with digital media, up from 3 hours a day in 2009. There we go, perfect. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing this is also, so I'm just going to get rid of this for the time being. You can also add an automated VO. Now this works really well 95% of the times. It might sound a bit automated 5% of the times, but that's a trade-off that you're going to have to do. But let's see, for example, US English, I'm going to go with Matthew.
Hello, hope you are having a great time making your...
I'm going to select that. Now here's the best part. Right now, the text that it has picked up is the text that was a part of my scene, but that's not necessary. You can actually change the text for the VO to be completely different from your text. Whatever text you copy paste here is the one that it'll read out. For example, when I click on generate VO, let's see how does it go about it.
The average adult spends 5.9 hours per day with digital media, up from 3 hours a day in 2009.
Sounds good. I mean, I think that's a fairly good voiceover, given that I did not have to do any effort whatsoever. I'm just going to add VO to my scene, and we'll be good to go from there, right? Now, another thing to remember is when you have your text for your automated VO, wherever you intonate. So, for example, if you give a comma, it will take a pause at that point in time. If you give a full stop, it will take a pause at that point in time. So you can actually use that to your advantage, and you can very smartly tell the system at what point should it pause and at what point it shouldn't. Cool. So I'm just going to save this. I hope that kind of explains how we can go about with adding a voiceover. Cool. That is pretty much about it. We've got all of our scenes locked in here. You just have to literally do that for the rest of your scenes. I'm just quickly going to jump over to Advanced Editor here. Now, the only reason that you might want to go to the Advanced Editor is to possibly do two things. One, control the transitions between your two scenes. Right now, if you'll notice, the transition between your two scenes comes by default basis whichever template you've selected. But if you want to control that, then you might want to go to the Advanced Editor. Right, let's actually go to the Advanced Editor and see how the layout changes. It's not drastically different. Everything remains the same in terms of the fact that on the right is your edit panel, on the left is your asset library. It's just that your scenes will be here at the bottom in the form of a semi-timeline of sorts, right? Now, if you want to change your transitions, you see these small rectangular boxes between your scenes. You can just click on them, click on any one of these effects, and you can select that, right? So just click on it, and that is the transition that gets applied. You can also remove the default transition so that there is no transition between two scenes. Sorry. Another thing that you would possibly do on the advanced editor is change project colors. So what do I mean by this? Now, typically, your template comes in with these 4 colors. If you remember the preview that we saw, our text was in white, and the highlight was in the form of indigo green, I believe. So you can actually change that when you come to brand. These are the colors that you've already set up in your brand preset settings on the top. So if you set it as these 4 colors in the beginning, you can actually apply them each and every single time. In fact, you can take this one step ahead and go to custom. Now here you can actually change pretty much all the 4 colors and kind of customize this according to how you would like it. So for example, let me highlight video. As you'll see, it has come out to be in the color that I've just changed it to, right? So similarly, you can do this for all of your projects, wherein if you want to change the color scheme for your entire project as once, as you can see, all the frames changed color according to the combination that I selected here, right? So you can actually do that here at the top. Those are literally the 2 possible options that you'll probably come to advanced editor for. Pretty much all the other editing options are already available on the storyboard page in your edit panel. Cool. I kind of hope that helps you understand where you can find which feature. Okay, I've got a couple of text messages. Just give me a second. Is there any animations, video transition effects between 2 slides? Yep, I think that I kind of answered that, because you do have a whole bunch of transition effects that you can use. So you've also got, so for example, you've also got slightly complicated effects like this. Let me actually apply a couple of them to our scene so that you know how they look like. Perfect. Now, once I'm done arranging all of my scenes, what I can do is I can just quickly go say preview and export. This will give me a preview of the whole video project at once. Right? That's my first transition. That's my second transition. Right? Obviously, now I could have leveled that audio better, but you get the general gist. So, sorry, you get the general gist. I could have probably leveled the audio slightly better for that scene, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to go back and do that. But when you click on export, the video gets submitted, and it'll take about 3 to 4 minutes for it to complete processing. This is basically the app rendering this project on our servers. Shouldn't take more than 3 or 4 minutes. Now, what you can do is, once the project gets generated, if you like the project, you can actually download it from here itself. There'll be a download option that you can use to do that. If not, you can again click on edit project, and it'll take you exactly where you left off, and you can pick it up from there. Now, here's the best part. What happens in the event that you want to duplicate this project? Now, duplication can happen for a whole bunch of reasons. Let's say, for example, if the first video was made in one language and you want to duplicate it into a second language, you can also do that. You can also duplicate it if you want to mirror the same project across platforms. For example, when I click on duplicate, as you'll see, it'll give me 3 options. Now, what I'll do is, let's actually duplicate this project for Facebook. So when I click on duplicate now, it'll directly accommodate all the scenes according to Facebook's resolution, which is 1:1, and it'll give you all the scenes. Now, obviously, you might have to make some minor edits in some of the scenes. So for example, in the first scene, because our media in the background was horizontal, it actually fit it in by blurring the top and the bottom. Now, all you have to do in cases like this is click on edit, go to crop frame, it'll automatically give you the best fit. As you can see, you're already on the best fit. You can just move this around a little and say done. Your scene gets locked. It's as simple as it gets, right? So wherever you, so the rest of the places it has already done that, because the rest of the frames had images, whereas the first frame had a video clip, right? So wherever you feel like, you have to just crop the image so that it can take up the entire screen, you can just go in and do that. Cool. Again, hit preview and export, and you will have another square version of the same project submitted. Now, these two projects are independent. They don't overwrite each other, so you don't have to worry about that. Cool. As you can see, this is the first project and this is the second project. Cool. Let's quickly go back to our create panel. I wanted to also show you another workflow that is inbuilt into your script to video workflow, which is listicles, right? So when you click on listicles, these are again, a great way for you to kind of tell your stories, or probably your, you can make a list of features that your product or your business has, and if you want to communicate that in an effective way, I think this also comes in extremely handy. Let me just pick up this as a template for the time being. Let's go live with this. I also have a tentative script that I'm going to use. Okay, so as you can see, what it has already done is the way that the scenes are laid out is slightly different. So for example, this is the listicle headline. And what you can do is you can say 5 tips for great video marketing. Tips for great video marketing. Right now, I don't have to necessarily have this. I could have also had this entire thing here, but you get the general sense of how you can use this to your advantage for beginners, let's say. Perfect. Now, again, the rest of the layout remains the same, so you can drag and drop your media. Everything else remains the same. In fact, when you go to the edit panel, you again come to the exact same layout. So nothing changes. It's just the first screen. What we are trying to do is help you make listicles. So we are kind of pre-configuring these scenes to kind of help you get started, right? Now, if you'd like, you can place this on the left. You can, bring this to the center, so on and so forth, right? Everything else remains the same. So, cool. Okay, let's move on to the next scene. So this is your listicle item. So these are actually the 5 items, right? So what you'll do is you'll say, this is the first item, give it a heading. So my heading is user grade script. Let's say user grade script. And my subtext can be, don't use longer sentences. Right, there you go. So now obviously I can change the font size, I can play around with this, I can make whatever changes I want to, right? One quick update that I wanted to show you, which I couldn't before, was I wanted to show you how you can embed a social frame, right? So let me just quickly see if I can do that for you here. Okay, let's add a scene, and let's say social, right? Now, the reason why you'll do this, what if you have an Instagram post or a Twitter post that you wanted to embed in your story? Now, you can only do Instagram and Twitter because Facebook does not really give us the permission to do that. It's got a whole host of permission issues. But Instagram and Twitter, you can definitely go ahead and do that. Let me just quickly pick up a tweet so I can kind of show you how this works. I'm just waiting for a tweet. Okay, actually, I think I have a tweet ready here. Great. Let me see this tweet. I think it's also got an image, so I think that should come in handy. Sorry about that. Perfect, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the link to this tweet. I'm going to come back to my app, paste the link of the tweet here, and say fetch. Now, what the app will automatically do is it'll pick up, it'll scrape the tweet along with the profile picture, along with the media, and along with the handle and the tweet, right? That's the best part. Now, if you preview this, I'll animate it. There you go. Now, here's the best part. This might not be the most effective layout because, as you know, you'll clearly agree, it is covering up my main media. So in this tweet, I think what is also equally important is not just the text, but also the image, right? So now what you can do is you can go to edit. Now, without doing a lot of effort, just go to more scene options. And just as we saw with our headline frame, what you will get is a bunch of scene recommendations that you can pick from, so that will automatically solve this problem for you. Let's just give this a couple of seconds. Let's just wait for the scene recommendations to come in. There you go. So as you'll see, I can possibly look at picking up this layout, or I can also possibly look at picking up this as a layout or this as a layout. Right? Let me pick this one up for the sake of this for the sake of our convenience. Now, if you preview this, you'll notice that the way that the scene comes in completely changes. I'm sorry. This glitch that keeps happening every once in a while is because of my internet connection. I'm not on the best internet connection. But as you can see, you can now still edit everything. So you can actually make your image bigger, you can make your text bigger, etc., etc. Right? So save that and we are good to go. So this is just one small thing that I missed out while I was showing you the previous workflow, but it works the same way across any workflow that you choose, right? So the best part about the app is that once you know where to find what, I think the workflow will not really matter, right? Cool. So I'm just going to get back from here onto our main workspace. Now let's go back to the second workflow, which is what about ready-made versatile templates? So let me say start a project. Here again, what you'll do is, as you can see, there are a whole bunch of templates that you can use, right? So for example, right? If so, this is a Spine Wellness Center template. Again, obviously, this is a dummy representation, right? You can obviously use this for anything and everything. It can also be for yoga classes. It can be for anything under the sun. You can change the color scheme and kind of use it that way, right? But let me actually pick up something that is a little more text oriented. You also have a whole bunch of logo reveal templates, so you can actually use these to build your intro and outro. You should probably try them out if you don't already have one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick headline of the day as a template. Right now, if this is my layout, again, I can just say start with this template. Now, the difference that you'll notice is that you're not driving with text, which is why what will happen is it'll directly bring you to the advanced editor with all the scenes already pre-configured. There we go. So you've got all your scenes at the bottom. You already have them pre-configured. It's not like our traditional workflow where we put the text and then we come to this step in the end. You actually begin with this step. And the reason for this is that you actually are more particularly focused on your layout. So once you figured your layout, you can just click on the text box and change this. So for example, top 5 digital trends of 2019. And I'm just going to highlight 2019. Right now I can move this to the top, etc. Whatever I want to do, right? Now, next scene, playoff power 8 rankings. Now I can actually move this to the center if I want to, or I can move this to the top. Now again, this is where layers will come in handy. But let's say if I want to just keep this to right where we picked it up from, right? Now, ND pair of rankings, you can again make changes to this. You can change the text here. You can move this around if you have to. So for example, if you want this to move it to the center, you can do that, so on and so forth, right? So your scene is already configured and you're just trying to make small minor changes and probably go live with it. In fact, on the left, if you've noticed, there's another tab that gets added. It's called Add Scene. So what you will have here is you will have your scenes already pre-configured for you. So if, for example, you've got a longer story, you can get rid of this as a scene and just add whatever scenes you'd like to get added, right? So just click on Add Scene, it'll get added to your workflow. Well, that's pretty much all that there is to ready-made templates. But all the other changes is something that you can do just as you can with the script-based videos. I think the layout is also exactly the same. On the left is your asset library. On the right is your edit panel, right? Cool. So I think that kind of sums up the two workflows. Now I'm just going to show you how building a project from scratch looks like. For example, if you want to start with 9x16, it's just a blank canvas. You can add your text boxes from the left, your media from the left, and kind of build your scenes from scratch, right? So for example, I can say this is my test scene. This is my test scene. And you can use whatever media you want to use. Right? So on and so forth. You get the general sense of, like I said, once you've mastered the other two workflows and once you have gotten hands-on on where you can find which option, I think building your own scene is also something that you'll enjoy and you'll want to do, right? Cool. Before I start taking your questions, I just wanted to kind of fill you in on how you can reach out to us, or what is the best way to resolve any question that you may already have, right? So if you look at this question option that you have here, when you click on it, you've got a couple of tutorials. So for example, if you want to look at how to use ready-made versatile templates, just click on this tutorial. It's the exact same kind of tutorial that we just went over. As you can see, it'll actually take you through the entire process, right? And I mean, it can be a quick ready reckoner for you for the first 3 or 4 times that you make a video. Now, the help center is something that will come in handy even after that, because we keep updating this with our frequently asked questions. So, for example, if you want to know how to crop video, search for crop video, hit enter, crop my image or video, how do I blur my video is delayed, best practices, best videos. As you'll see, you've got a whole bunch of answers that you'll get which are related to that search term. You can select it. You'll get a step-by-step process on how you can go about doing that, and you also have a video tutorial, a screen recording of sorts that'll help you go through that. So this should come in extremely handy for you for frequently asked questions. Obviously, if you don't find your answers on either one of these two places, this icon on the right is your best friend. This is our 24/7 active chat support window. So typically you will get a reply 24/7, 365 days a week. You'll get a reply within under a minute. That's what we pride ourselves on. So all you have to do is just put in a new conversation, type in your query. You can also attach a screenshot or a video recording if you want to share that with our team, and someone will pick it up and get back to you in under a minute and help you get it resolved right then and there. Cool. Okay, what I'm going to do is just open this up for questions. So if you've got any questions, I think now would be the best time to address them. Guys, I'm just going to wait for the next 5 minutes. Please let me know if you've got any questions so far with whatever we've covered in the webinar. You can always obviously reach out to us at a later point in time once you're given this a spin. But for the time being, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Uh, Amar has a question. He's talking about what about pricing list? So, sure, Shruti, glad I could help. Please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. Amar, when it comes to pricing, I don't quite understand your question. So when you say what about pricing list, what I mean you're trying to ask me is how does our pricing work? Is that correct? Okay, I'm just going to go over pricing any which ways. Okay, perfect. Uh, I'm just going to open our website. And if you just go to pricing, you'll be able to look at our plans. So typically, people go with either a professional plan or an enterprise plan. Now, the only advantage of going with an enterprise plan is that you get text to speech, which is not something that you get under our professional plan. And you also get 50 premium video clips a month. So what do I mean by 50, premium video clips? Right? If you looked at our media library, so for example, when I type video and I go to our video library, you'll see that some of the video clips have a crown icon on top of them. So for example, let's just give this a second. Okay, so let's say I talk about the mountains. So you'll see that some of the video clips have a crown icon on top of them, which means that that's a premium video clip. It comes from one of our premium libraries. It either comes from Shutterstock or it comes from it predominantly comes from Shutterstock, right? And which is why we have to charge you a small premium. It's not available to anyone and everyone. I think the account that I'm using is already a premium account, which is why you can't see the crown icon. But when if you are on a free plan, you will be able to see a crown icon on top of on the top left of each video piece that or each video footage that is coming from our premium library. So you will not be able to use that in your video clips unless you upgrade to our enterprise plan. Hence, my recommendation will be that if you do need those premium video clips, you would be better off probably upgrading to our enterprise plan. But of course, I leave that decision to you. I'd recommend that you use the app for a couple of projects or so and discover that for yourself. If you already have a subscription for another video library, you might not necessarily want to upgrade to an enterprise plan. I hope that answers your question. Cool. So I hope I've been able to address all of your concerns today. Please do, like I said, reach out to us for any concerns that you may have with regards to video making, with regards to pricing, with regards to app suggestions. And last but not the least, we've got a community on Facebook, which I think will again come in extremely handy. I'll just share the link for the community with you so that you can join in the community. It's a great place for you to discover how other people are using our how other people are using the app, how they are making videos on it, and at the same time also give valuable recommendations in terms of what features you would like us to build next, how are your use cases different from everyone else out there, etc., etc. Right. So that's the link for the group. Please feel free to join in, and I look forward to the amazing videos that you're going to make with us. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a great day ahead.